Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. As you know, I've been writing for 934.com. I have a series on there that is about, just the difference between men and women, the trans perspective. The last one I did was on emotions. The first one was on communications. The last one I did was on emotions. And I thought it was a really great idea, and I had a lot of feedback that people would love to have, the trans man perspective on this. So two of my friends decided to join me today, and I am excited to have them. So let's go ahead and you guys can introduce yourself. Alex first.
I'm Alec. I I'm trans. I've been on testosterone for going on 6 years now. I started in December 2014, and it's been a ride, so to speak.
No,
I'm Logan.
absolutely.
I've only for like 2 years, so I've barely been trans on Twitter. Um, but yeah, that's basically it. There's not much about me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because if you've watched my channel, I've been on hormones for just over a year, so that's kind of where my experience is coming from. So, first of all, you before you transition, like I said in the article, that for me, I was almost an emotional void. Like there was something that was going on that was like the emotions I was having from the testosterone was not the same as what my brain thought it was. So essentially, it just kind of shut some of those emotions down. And that was my theory. What was your guys's? How was your personalities and emotions and everything like that before you transitioned?
Um, well, I was very shy and reserved, personality wise, but also my emotions. Bes- my dysphoria was very, very bad. I would dream of suicide every night, and I was just very, very depressed. But um, also, like, I was also very anxious too. So I had a lot of negative emotions, and whenever I would feel positive emotions, it was it was seldom.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that has a lot to do with just the dysphoria. You don't think it because of like because it was estrogen making those changes in your body, or was it you didn't like the way that you looked, or how did that really
I
work?
mean, I think it was both me not liking the way that I look, but also estrogen, because um, I noticed whenever I had my hysterectomy, my mood stabilized because my estrogen stabilized. So
Oh, that's great. What about you, Logan?
Uh, Before testosterone, I was very relaxed, and outgoing as well. I mean, I'm a bit of an introvert and an extrovert. Um, Definitely with the estrogen, though, I felt like my emotions were more tied and in tune with everything currently involved. With discussions that I would have with my wife or arguments. Um, and then, my dysphoria was pretty severe, but I always try to keep that under wraps, uh, just because it just didn't help thinking anything negative. So, but I definitely, and I can tell you that I remember my wife and I would argue definitely a lot the first 6 months I was on hormones. You know, my emotions changed, and it's kind of like it's hard. It's like spaghetti almost. Like my brain was like spaghetti full of emotions, and then it just like straightened itself out with only like five simple emotions. And so my wife tells me I don't have much. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because for me it was kind of the same way. I definitely um and see, trans women, we have like two different stages of hormones. We have when we start HRT, and then they'll add progesterone sometimes into it as well. And it's like your body definitely starts to get used to having those hormones, but it was a roller coaster like after about a month, because I think everything before that was just placebo effect. You're excited, so you're just like
Yeah.
wanting stuff to happen. Um, but then after a month, it was like that was the first time. I mean, I was not really a crier at all, and I just started. I broke down bawling on the side of the road running one day. It was just that most absolute, and then it was absolutely insane. And then I started progesterone, and it happened again. And that's why I say that's one thing where trans women, we kind of have a little bit. I mean, we even have an advantage over women, cis women, because we we have those hormones all the time, and women's hormones go up and down their cycles through the month, so it's like my body got used to it, whereas a woman can't. She doesn't get used to it because that's not that emotion, that hormone's not there long enough for them to
Yes.
get used to it. But you guys being on testosterone, how has that changed? Just the way you perceive things, and how things are.
Well, I know for sure that like it's much harder to cry on testosterone. Like even whenever I need to cry, it's like I can't. Cause like my tear ducts, like they just
Yeah.
even cause cause like I got some devastating news last week,
Oh,
and
I'm sorry.
I was just like, why am I not crying? It was just so odd, and but also the first like I want to say year, all my negative emotions got converted into anger. So I would just so like if someone died, instead of being sad, like I would just be so angry, wanting to break shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, I mean, dysphoria subsided, so I remember just being on this like really big high, and I noticed like testosterone. I just feel like it kind of makes you not give a fuck.
I see that. See, even for me, I guess that was never a thing. But that was probably because that again was not the emotion I was supposed to be feeling. It was I was feeling the emotion. I couldn't. I couldn't express it, and it was great for my job in the army. If something happens, you can just keep moving forward. But it wasn't so great for my, relationship with my ex-wife. It's like she'd tell me I was like talking to a brick wall, you
Yeah.
know. And now I actually get more enjoyment out of that type of communication and everything like that. So it's interesting because yeah, I guess testosterone, it's got to be kind of the same thing for you, because for us it's this crazy whirlwind of emotions that is something like we never felt, and it's the same for you, except for you guys are, yeah, you're getting it, it's turning you angry. It's almost like you went on steroids for a little bit, and like that roid rage, but your body will get used to that, where it won't get used to the
Yeah, it got used to it
roids.
after like a year. Then I was able to feel like wider range of emotions again. Um, and like I said, after my hysterectomy, my mood stabilized a lot because my estrogen levels weren't AWOL.
Yeah.
Um, and also, I I just noticed I'm able to detach more, so to speak.
Hmm.
Um, so whenever my body was running on estrogen, I could never just. I would get too caught up in my emotions. I could never look at something like logically or try to look at something objectively. But like now that I'm on testosterone and I'm more stabilized, I can detach from the situation and be like, oh, so this is probably how it should be handled instead of getting caught up in my emotions so much.
Mm-hmm. I got you. Got you. Logan, you're being a little quiet. What about you? You got anything to say?
Oh yeah, no, I was just letting you finish. I mean, yeah, it's testosterone for me right now. I've never felt anger before. I've always been, like I said, I was always like a relaxed person. If something happened, I would usually have a reason to get mad, and it would be an emotional kind of angry. You know what I'm talking about? But now, being 2 years on hormones, to me, it's like I feel like I'm going through puberty all over again. And I have my brother here with me, and he's like talking me through this stuff about anger, because man, this anger I feel is so intense. I mean, before I would never throw my phone. Now if I feel this kind of anger, I want to break something, and I would try to break my phone, but I got an OtterBox. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, like, and for my wife too, I mean, I think about, so for me, majoring in behavioral science and things like that, I've been observing the way I am and the way the world has interacted with me through these changes, and particularly with my intimate relationships, family, friends. Um, you know, they see that I have changed a lot. Um, they see that I'm much more confident in myself and also much more reserved. But then they talk to me about my rage a lot. So, I'm working on it, but it's like I don't have as much emotional connection to things. Like Alex said, there's just this detachment, and then there's times where I just cry out of nowhere, where I'm just completely like angry or pissed, and I'm like, okay, so maybe my body just needs to release it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not like tears that actually come because I cried of something. It's because my body's like, you got all this built up in you. You just need to like let it out. So but it's not like how I was on estrogen. So it's really interesting to see how much this hormone has really just altered the way I see the world and the world sees me in just a short amount of time.
Yeah, that's interesting because you're, like you said, you're married too. So it's not just a change for you; it's a change for your wife. See, I live. I mean, and I live by myself. My family all lives up in Michigan. I live in Georgia, so um, it's not as big of an issue. I mean, me and my ex wife have been separated for, we separated back like 4 years, 5 years ago, or something like that, maybe even longer. So she's been here for me for my transition. She's been supportive, but we haven't been together, so she hasn't really felt the effects of my transition. So how is, I mean, I can imagine that it would be. How is your wife handling the change of emotions? What does she tell you?
I mean, before, she told me that she really couldn't understand initially, because we've known each other since we were 18. I'm going to be 26 this year. So
Mm-hmm.
she's known me for like 4 or 5 years on estrogen. And so when she saw that, I just didn't have that typical exciting or enthusiastic response like I used to, she sees that it's, she took offense to it at first, because she didn't she like, people forget. I really do feel like people forget that, we're all on hormones, and we're still going through, these changes in our brains. And so she, that just kind of passed her mind for the first few months, that I was, why I was acting that way, why I would get so defensive and irritable. And it's like that with my family too. I live with my sister and my brother and my aunt. and they see the changes also. Especially like when I talk to my aunts and uncles, they've known me since I was a little baby. So it's for them, it's just a big change too, and I feel like they have a cognitive dissonance. Basically, like they see me and then they know what I'm going through and who I am and how I identify, but they still hold on to the past and everything. It's just weird. So it's just a weird experience being around people who've known you before your transition, and then they're there with you all the time, because I can ask them now, like they don't really remember who I was. It's like a ghost to them now.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that too. Like you're. One second. Okay. Yeah. Had to shut the door. Um. Yeah, I can see that being interesting too, because families, they're they're weird in ways too. See, my family just hasn't. They accept it. I grew up very accepting family and everything like that. But I don't see them that often. So that like even using my old name and pronouns and stuff like that, it still happens. Some of them are make it a point to try. But I've always said that'll come. I'm not so worried about it. I think that people get too wrapped up on that stuff. So, um, yeah. So that is really interesting though too. Oh, I don't know what else. What else? What else do you guys? What other experiences? Now, Alec. How about your family? Like with the whole
So,
change and everything.
so my family originally took it hard. Like my mom and my aunt both cried. My dad, ironically, he he was like, okay, like I mean, I guess because of the situation with my mom. My mom is sick and handicapped since 2010, and since he deals with that, he's just like, okay,
Yeah.
and because I thought he was gonna be the hardest one to persuade, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
um, but it was actually my mom that took it really hard, and so I guess some of my aunts. But I th- I came out to them in a therapy session, and that way they could ask all the questions they wanted, and my counselor could answer them. And I think that helped a lot. Um, and uh, After a while, my mom came around. I think what happened was that she thought I was changing as a person,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, once she saw, my voice and stuff was changing, but I was still, her little turd. In her words, she came around.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is that point with families, and it's kind of funny because when it's male to female, it's always the men that don't understand and take it the hardest, but the women are usually supportive because well they get it, they understand why you'd want to be a woman, right? And it's the exact opposite. When you're female to male, your dads and guys understand why you'd want to be a dude, right? But kind of along the points of what Logan said, I always when people say I just don't understand, I say, well, how could you? Like, how could you understand if you've never had the emotions that and the feelings that we are feeling inside? And that's why it's like, well, I understand that you don't understand why I am the way I am because and why I want to transition. To you that seems foreign.
Yeah, my aunt kind of looked back, uh, and I guess my mom too kind of looked back and saw signs.
Yeah.
Uh, like my mom gave me the birds and the bees talk at 13, and my first question was, when is my body going to start producing semen? Uh, so, so, so that's whenever my aunt was like, "Oh, Alec's been feeling this for a long time," um, and so like they finally started putting two and two together.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to give as many hints as I could growing up. It was kind of funny. And everybody said, oh, it's a complete shock. Actually, my mom said it wasn't such a shock after she came to visit and everything like that. And I was talking, like the way I was talking about, we went down to, Midtown Atlanta, which is like the neighborhood. So we went there, and she's like, she started questioning at that point. And yeah, I mean but then it's a funny story because my mom went to a psychic. So my sister's 10.5 years younger than me. My mom went to a psychic when she was pregnant with my sister, and the psychic said, well, I see you have a boy and a girl already. And my mom argued with her, no, I have two boys. And now she looks back on it to this day and goes, oh my god. The psychic knew. It's just it's funny tales. So when you start to look back on stuff like that, it's yeah. I mean, and I think the biggest thing for my family, my mom, when people ask her how I'm doing, she always tells me, I'm the happiest she's ever seen me. I can look back in pictures and be like, I'm smiling, but there's just this self-doubt in like every single picture that I've ever taken. And it's kind of funny to look back on that type of stuff too. So
I've read, when I was reading your article you sent me, your second article about the emotions and everything involved. I was, when you explained how you were crying and how you're going through all these emotions, I was like, man, I do not miss that. I don't miss that. And it's something that I've noticed, and I'll be honest, in being able to pass so easily. I was able to pass within like 3 or 4 months, so, and that's pretty fast. And so they the way I've been treated, honestly, I've actually been more like, people have been more sexist toward me as being presented as a male in society than ever as a female in society. I have been treated, women say, and I'm not trying to be against anything women are saying, because trust me, I've been treated a certain way too. So, but guys really do change their behavior around you. Guys really do they change themselves for you. Like, they're not even their genuine selves in an open conversation in public, if you don't know the guy, or if you just meet the guy. But if it was like him talking to another guy like he was a stranger, then there's like that instant relaxation that I could get away with a little more. So there is a difference in even how there's a communication now.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in like barber shops, where my wife dropped me off at this all guys barber shop. I went in, and like the stuff they were saying, like they would never say it if there was a woman present. Yeah. So it's definitely different, and but women want to be treated equally. But I don't know, a lot of women, when they are treated like one of the guys and they are included in the circle, they do get uncomfortable, and they do take some things offensively. And so it's just like, that's something I've noticed. So I just wanted to share that, because I've just noticed that these are experiences I've had with college students, being on campus, and no one really knowing I'm trans at all. So how the guys interact with me together, and then when the girls in my class show up and hang out, it's completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
very true.
Yeah, I find like I noticed some things have gotten easier as a man. Like I just like for example, I as whenever I was presenting female, I tell a joke and I get called a bitch. But I tell that same joke as a man, then suddenly I'm funny. Like it's so weird. But there's also some things that I've gotten harder as a man. For example, you have um, I just find out that it's almost like nobody cares about you anymore. If you know what I mean, like
I exactly. It's like when you express your emotions and you try to express what is bothering you. I have literally tried doing that, and it's almost like when I'm trying to do it, no one wants to listen to me. No, it's almost like they take it as if I'm telling them what to do when I'm just simply expressing my, it's not even anger, it's more like um frustration, but it's in a way where you speak to them firmly. Alec, I think you know what I'm talking about. And they take it like you're trying to like boss them around, like you're trying to like do this, be this kind of this a-hole kind of guy. And it's just like they don't want to listen to it. But when I was on estrogen and I was a woman and I would express my concerns, like Alex said, people really listened more and tried to help. But like as a guy, you're thrown on the back burner. Like no one cares.
Yep. That's interesting to hear too, because a lot of feminists in the society would think the opposite, right? Like your opinion is more valuable.
oh
Um,
hell no.
well, see,
Like that, that's definitely like the main thing about being a trans man. Like nobody gives a shit about you.
Yeah, you don't fit in
well,
any
that's
kind of
true.
narrative. Like
Yeah,
you can't say you can't be like, well, you know, a trans man beat a man in wrestling or something because like one, you just it's just who's the trans guy in the picture?
yeah,
Two, it's like, it's just these things that we're forgotten about. Literally, we're just like tossed in like the dusty corner or put on the dusty shelf at the top, and people just leave us alone.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that is true. When you look at even in the trans community, everything has always revolved around trans women. You don't hear about trans men that much, which is interesting. Um,
And one thing that frustrates me is that, like, whenever there's spaces dedicated to trans men because of this lack of visibility or lack of attention trans men have, whenever we create our own spaces, we're obliged to open up those spaces to everybody. Like, I have a friend, his name is Jason, and he's the owner of FTM Magazine.
mm,
And people demand him to open it up to like non-binary and trans women and all that, and he's like no, because like once that happens they become the sole focus and trans men never get anything.
yeah.
Like let trans men have this one thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like the lesbians of the society, right? I mean, if you look at what Ariel's fighting for, that's exactly the same thing. It's like you guys are like part of the pariahs of the trans community, and maybe it has to do with. I mean, part of it has to do with just the way society is with hating the patriarchy, and you guys chose to join the patriarchy, right?
Yeah, I'm the
and
enemy now.
that's where people get offended. You guys are choosing to join the patriarchy. I mean, because even you would never have TERFs fighting you because they're feminists. They don't like you anyways.
Yeah, we're traitors to them.
yeah, exactly. Which I love this conversation because actually I am writing the next installment is on male and female privilege. It's titled "The Patriarchy," and it's just going to be on these exact topics that we're discussing right now because there are privilege on both sides, and then you guys get lost in the way, because you can't have your own thing. People think you're now a straight white man. You can't be part of our club. You can't be part of
Yeah,
any
I
club.
mean, so here in San Diego County, we have a really one of the largest lesbian bars I've ever been to, and it's such an incredible bar. And when I went there before with my wife, uh, basically presented as a lesbian couple, everybody was fine, no dirty looks. We blended in. People left us alone. But damn, when I when I went back looking like this, sounding like this, like my body's completely like I've been passed as a male. Actually, my body's passed as a male for basically my whole adult life. So when they see me at the club, it's dirty looks,
Wow.
dirty looks.
Yeah.
And then they like hit on my wife, so they hit on my wife all the time. And then she's like, I'm with my husband, and then she's pointing at me right here, and I'm holding the drinks. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
um and they're like, oh my god. And it's like, to me, I feel like that's an issue as well. Like, LGBT people, we got to stop being so repulsed by the people who got us here in the first place.
Yeah.
Stop being children. Like, so for me and my wife go to that bar because it's I'm around like a lot of military members. And Sarah, you know how military members are
Yeah.
when they're drinking.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just, for me, it's the safest place to go for me and my wife to just have a good time and to
Mm-hmm.
drink and to relax. And that's why you do see straight couples there, because, like, the guy doesn't want to have to sit there and fight off a bunch of freaking morons,
Yeah.
bunch of like, think about it. I'm in the city where I have all these colleges and all these military bases here, and it's a drinking city. It's a
Mm-hmm.
drinking county, basically. So it's just, it's just a safe place for people. And I feel like, LGBT, you guys got to understand that there's some people that want to be safe as well. So just don't judge people right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my friends, Aiden, and his wife Jenny Lee. I remember him talking about having that same issue. Like, I think they would go into queer spaces, and because Aiden, he's muscular with a beard, he passes. Um, so basically, the people who were in the group was wondering what were they doing there, and then they have to come out. Aiden's trans, and Jenny Lee is not straight.
Yeah.
um, so it's just kind of ridiculous. But I mean, I guess I understand in a way because I've heard of you know hetero asexuals coming into queer spaces because they believe themselves to be LGBT, and they'll say homophobic shit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, no, this isn't the space for you. We're trying to get away from that rhetoric. So I understand where they're coming from, but Aiden and Jenny Lee didn't do that.
Yeah.
Like, they were just there to get support because there's not a lot. I think it was like a LGBT family space or parent space. So, like, and they had just become parents, so they were looking for some sort of support.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what happens too, right? The bi shaming that happens in the community. Like the bisexuals are kind of like, yeah, if you go there with your if you are a guy and you go there with your girlfriend into a club, they're gonna wonder. You know, you're like, why are you coming in here? Thankfully, we do have at least two bars here um, that are just open to everybody. Hell, I took my mom to the bar. It's like the bar I went to like every weekend. The bartenders know me. I can get my drinks like that, and they're open to everybody. I've met gay, straight, bi, lesbians. Basically, it's the whole community that goes there. And then even our purely lesbian bar isn't too bad, at least from my perspective. So I've never been there in like your situation, Logan. So I wouldn't even know how people would be there. But there,
Oh, you would love it here. I mean, like you guys would totally love it here. It's a whole like. So what's so cool about this bar is it's literally like it's a whole area. It's a gay community here. So and I take everyone there. I've taken every single person. They're open to everybody.
mm-hmm.
But when you like to me, it's just I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. Like the atmosphere is a little different back before the election, but before everything. Like people, there was more lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
Like 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm aligning this up with the non-binary, the queer, you know, where trans women like people were transitioning more just to transition rather than just because you get what I'm saying.
Yep.
So when the bar back then, it had like a lot of lesbians, a few trans women, and some gay guys. Because the gay guys have like literally 6 other bars they could that are basically like gay guy bars. And then I left for a few years. I came back, and it was just like every single person, every gender. I mean, I don't even know. You would just have some of the most unique looking individuals just show up. I mean, it like the whole thing changed. It
Yeah.
went from a lesbian bar, and a lesbian basically space to like now it's open to the entire community. Now it's like open to everybody, and so there's like that lesbian safe space is like not there anymore. It doesn't exist. So that's a problem too in the community.
Yeah.
Look, there is that issue. There's gay guys. You guys got like every single bar in the world. Just leave the lesbian bars alone. Lesbians just don't get a bar. They really don't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we have one. We have one lesbian bar in Houston, and thankfully, nobody like questions why you're there. They have a whole drag king show of trans men, and some trans women, and
wait,
some cis people. I don't know.
what's the bar? I think because my mom lives out in the Houston area. So what was the bar called?
Pearl Bar.
What's it called?
Pearl Bar.
I probably went there on my 21st. But yeah, it's just it's just like I feel like also with the whole trans women, it is like there is like a problem, not with the ones that are rational, but the ones that are radicalist. They're the ones that are imposing their ways of like they're literally like to me the patriarchy, like a real patriarchy, because they're imposing their will on everyone. It's like listen to me because I'm this way. Like you don't hear trans guys throwing that card around ever, and I think that's why trans guys don't really say like they're not part of any real discussion, because we don't just throw out what makes us different. We want to be trans men. We're proud of that, and we want to blend in as men. We don't. It's not a victim card. It's not anything like that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us just want to blend. I mean, the majority of people just want to blend. But there is that problem, and that's why I think we all are doing what we do on here and on Twitter and everything like that to fight back, because we have to. Otherwise, we're going to get buried by the trans activist, the perceptions of us. Because and part of the reason and you don't see a lot of trans men doing it because, like you guys said, trans men are kind of looked over. So it makes more sense for somebody to transition, but say they're non-binary, because then they get more points to be in the community. Trans men just want to blend. They want more points so that they can. The true activists are non-binary when it comes to trans men. When it comes to that side. Um, but yeah, you're absolutely right too with a lot of the trans women. I mean, the they. I mean, what is more using your male privilege than to force yourself into women's sports and women's spaces? You know.
Yeah, and I've seen some pretty disturbing stuff from from some trans women, like suck the dick, bigot.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
I'm just like, are you serious right now? Like, no, you're not entitled to sleep with anybody.
yeah, yeah, and that's absolutely true. I mean, I don't even really go to the LGBT bars anymore. Now that I'm full time and everything like that, I go to more straight clubs and everything, and I hang out a lot in the electronic music scene as well, which is a very open scene. I mean, I just started DJing lately, and I mean, it's just there again. That's just an open scene. That's kind of like a doesn't matter who you are, what you do. You know, everybody's doing everything. So, um, but yeah, I don't even really go out to the LGBT bars anymore. And it's amazing because, um, and that's why you see some of the female privilege. I mean, it's incredibly validating when you go out and have somebody hold the door and call you pretty, and it's just like, oh hey, cool, thanks. But it, it's you can see how you can get away with stuff too as a female. So that's why I want to do the point of male and female privilege, because absolutely.
I mean, like, you could just, there is privilege now. Women are basically, they get in the bar for free, where me and Alec got to pay $20 just to go to the bar.
Right?
So, and then, and that's an interesting thing that you brought up, Sarah, because, like, being in the military, you definitely know what it's like when you go to the bars on base and you see all the guys surrounding that one female troop or soldier and
Yeah,
trying to get her all the drinks. Like, I can tell you right now, I never spent $1 on my drinks when the grunts came back,
yeah, yeah,
because they wanted any woman they could find, and they would just buy and buy drinks. I didn't have to pay anything.
yeah. That's how it was in
And
college too.
yeah, it's very real. So that's, privilege right there. You're not
Yeah,
spending hundreds of dollars on drinks. And it's just like, again, there is a privilege in society where I feel like it's just a ghost privilege. In a way, it's just a screen where people think the men have the power. Well, I mean, yes, men have power in the sense that they're stronger, they have logic, and they reason and less emotion involved. But women now, they have more power in the courts, they have more power in public spaces, they have more power, like, they're getting better, they're getting more degrees now. It's Women are getting paid more at entry level jobs. There's a shift going on between men and women, and you can see with this shift also depression amongst the sexes increasing. So, because they're being put in roles that really, in a way, don't suit what they naturally want to do. You got women who are like, you can be a math
I think what
engineer and stuff,
mm-hmm.
and you know but they want to be like an artist or something, and vice versa. You got people just, and that's just a BS thing, but you got people that are forced now to be what they're not. And you got the third wave feminism, which is basically using masculine traits, aggression, and all these things, negative masculine traits, to crap on good guys and good masculine qualities.
Mm-hmm.
I think what people also don't understand is that, like, say this hand is men and this hand is women, and uh, they thought, well, not thought, like men were had more weight on their side, but instead of making it equal, it's like they're putting so much weight on the men on the women's side that like it's becoming more unbalanced again, and it's like the goal it should be to have it even,
Yeah.
like balanced. And I think by just turning it upside down, that's not the answer.
No, absolutely. I think we can bring that back to even the LGBT community. They just wanted equal rights, right? And now the activists are pushing for more than equal rights. They want to be praised. They want to be, they want special privileges because they're, LGBT.
Yeah, like it's wild to me. Like, but I guess that's their shtick, Like,
Hmm.
I'm so oppressed that give me this, give me that, and it just keeps expanding, expanding, expanding until it infringes on other people. Like that's why I always joke whenever I say "suck the dick, bigot," because like that's literally what it's come to, especially online.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean, that's the whole thing with activism in general. If you actually get what you're fighting for, then you're out of a job. So you always have to be evolving into new ways that people are oppressing you.
Hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, I guess we can probably wrap it up right there. I will say, it wasn't pretty interesting because you've mentioned military stuff too. When I came out, honestly, I think this goes to show how awesome the military is because when I came out, like my military friends have all been amazing. Super supportive. I have senior leaders and everything like that. They're all super supportive, and that just comes with the territory. So when you look at politics and stuff like that, they don't really care who they're fighting next to. I have some very conservative, some very liberal. It doesn't everybody, and it's always as long as you can get the job done. The people that I worked it with, they knew I got the job done, so
Yeah,
they're very supportive.
exactly,
And I didn't
exactly.
come out in the military. I came.
I came out in the military,
Did you? Yeah.
and people were like, my unit was pretty chill with me. They're like, yeah, we understand, but they didn't understand the integration process. They didn't understand how the transition process works. So you would hear ignorant comments like, okay, well, I identify as a woman, so my PT score, my PFT is easier,
Yeah.
or my CFT is
Has
easier.
nothing to do with that.
Yeah, and so there is still obviously ignorance that is,
Yep.
which leads to violence,
Yep.
unfortunately.
Yep.
And we know, Sarah, that all the military, believe it or not, gets briefed every year, mandatory briefs for a week, basically on all this, like all
Yep.
these things: sexual harassment, sexual assault. Military members, every single one, have to do mandatory training every year.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
they take it seriously. And so with this transition, the transition process and the integration process, it's just too chaotic,
Yeah.
and it's just, there's just too many, it's just too difficult.
Yeah.
And honestly, I do believe trans people can serve the military, but they can do it in different ways. You can be a DoD contractor, you could be, all these things. You don't have to go on the front lines, and until they fix this integration process, because your to me, your life is more valuable than, you know you just signing on the dotted line to try to serve. You won't even make it to where you're trying to go
Hmm.
if you have people that are still very ignorant to us out there.
Yeah. The whole uh, military ban and everything like that. Like I was at Fort Bragg when Obama was enacting and we were doing all the briefs and everything like that about how things would change and everything like that, starting to integrate. But it's funny because people go off of what Trump tweeted instead of what he actually did. I've actually spoken to Kristen Beck quite a bit. She's a big inspiration to me. Former, if you know her, former Navy SEAL, documentary and book called Lady Valor. And she's been great, but we've disagreed on some stuff. But originally she had been asked on the Steve Wilkos show if she could serve as Chris Beck during the week and be Kristen Beck on off duty, would she do that? Would she support that? And she said yes. And essentially that is what the Trump ban allows for. And she did move the goalpost, and I called her out on it, but because the Trump ban says you can't be on hormones, you can't be on estrogen. I would have been able to serve in the same capacity that I would have, except for I would have been able to be more open. I would have been able to be myself on weekends. I would have been able to go to social functions, mandatory fun and everything like that, as myself. Just during the week, I couldn't wear a uniform as female, and that would be the only difference. And I understand, because hormones are not easy to get overseas. Any medication's hard to get overseas. So it takes medics and everything like that who are not trained to deal with, trans stuff. And then having SRS, that's a 1 year profile. So that takes you that puts you in a spot that somebody else could be in for a year. So if you've ever worked with MTOs and everything like that, because I was an officer in a company and trying to get people, you can't get a new replacement if there's somebody sitting in a spot, even if they're on profile, and they're probably not going to come off that profile. They have to sit there until they med board out, and they take up a deployable space from you. So I completely understand. I think that was kind of overblown as well. I think we will see some rational thought come out of it and ways to serve. I actually have a really good friend who's, I actually didn't meet her. I guess we probably crossed paths at one point. But she transitioned from my old unit and everything like that, and she's doing really good. So she's a former, Ranger School guy, and then she transitioned, and it looks like she's doing great. So, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that too, because we had brought up military experience, and the military is going to do whatever the military is going to follow whatever the orders of the president are, and the soldiers are going to follow right behind it.
Mission first.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how it is. So again, I'm gonna cut it off here. Thank you guys for joining. Is there anything you guys want to plug? I'll post whatever links you guys send me and stuff like that in the comments of the video. And then,
I guess you can link my Twitter.
I'll post your channel as well.
Yeah.
I'll post your channel. So me and Alec are actually doing a 1-in-1, so I'm gonna go on his channel as well. His channel is a great channel. It's not really talking politics or anything like that. I really love the direction of just making it about positivity and transition stories and everything like that. So I'll put your channel on there. I'll put your Twitter on there. If there's anything else, let me know. What about you, Logan?
Trans man for Trump on my Twitter. Okay. You'll find me. You can just type in trans man for Trump.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put that in the description as well. Again, thank you guys for coming on. It's been fun, and to my audience, I will see you next time. Check them out.